Hey, welcome to Wisdom Wednesday with Pastor Josh. Wisdom is the quality or state of being wise, as knowledge of what is true, right, coupled with just judgment as to action, sagacity, discernment, and insight. We're going to look at what that means today on this edition of Wisdom Wednesday. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Wisdom Wednesday podcast. I'm joined by my son. He's been joining me all week. We're just telling some Bible stories and talking about some devotional thoughts to go with it. We talked about Abraham and Isaac on Monday. We talked about the Ten Commandments yesterday and the golden calf situation. And so we are here today on this Wednesday edition to talk about which Bible story we're talking about today.
Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, the fiery furnace.
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Awesome, this is a great story. So tell me about it. Tell me the story.
Well, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego did not want to worship the golden statue like yesterday's
Yesterday's podcast. Yep.
I did say that they made a golden calf to worship, but this time
King Nebuchadnezzar
made a idol again.
Right. This happens a lot, doesn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, it does. So tell me, what happened? How did the story progress? How did it unfold here?
I don't know.
So he makes a statue, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, what was his order? What did he want everyone to do?
To worship the idol, but if they wouldn't, they would be thrown into a fiery furnace and get burnt to death.
Okay, so Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, did they bow down and worship?
No, because they obeyed our God.
Right.
They
remembered the Ten Commandments, right?
Yeah. When they weren't even alive by then, I think.
Yeah, so the Ten Commandments hadn't been, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they weren't around when the Ten Commandments were created, but they would have remembered them because their people talked about the Ten Commandments, and they knew the Bible at that time. They knew what the Ten Commandments were, and they knew they were commanded to follow God and to love Him with all their heart, soul, mind, and strength.
Yep.
Right? And so they knew that. And so they also knew that the Ten Commandments were something that needed to be followed.
Yep.
Right? And so, tell me, so they didn't worship, right? They didn't worship the statue. So how did the story move from there? What happened after that?
Well, they didn't worship the idol, so then they got one more chance from Nebuchadnezzar, and they did not do it again. So they got thrown into a fiery furnace, but God saved their life.
So how did that happen? Talk about the story. Talk about the part where they're in the fire. What happened when they're in the fire?
The soldiers were killed.
Right, the ones who threw them into the fire?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And God was there in the fire.
That's right. That's right. The story, the Bible tells us that there was one like the Son of Man. Right? They said, wasn't there three? Right? Didn't he say that?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't I throw 3 people in the fire?
Yep.
But how many people did he see in the fire?
4.
4. That's right.
Because God was in there with them.
That's right. Do you think it was Jesus standing in the fire with them?
Yep.
Yeah.
Or an angel. Like Chris, he was trying to cheat on his test because he didn't study.
Well, and Chris, you're talking about Superbook, right? You're talking about the characters on Superbook.
Yes.
Part of the sharing of the Bible stories that you've been watching.
And they were trying Gizmo and I think it's Joy or Choi.
Joy.
Okay. And they were trying to stop him from trying to cheat, and they would have to pay with money. He was about to cheat, but he didn't after he got back from the Bible story that he saw.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so Chris was thinking about cheating.
Yes.
But when he got back from watching the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, he knew that he couldn't do it. He knew he couldn't cheat.
Yep.
Right. It's good that these Bible stories help us to understand how we should live, right?
Yep. Cheating is kind of like the idol that's been made by cheaters. They've cheated from other people.
So it's kind of like you it's kind of the same thing, right? When you cheat, you're making an idol, right, out of yourself.
Yeah, like Chris, he was making an idol.
You know?
He was cheating.
Well, and the idea is that they were sinning before God. They were breaking His law, but really they're more than breaking the law. They were breaking His heart when they do that kind of thing, right? When they cheat and whatnot. So it's good that he didn't cheat. So let's get back to the Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego story. So they didn't worship the idol, thrown into the fire. There's a fourth man in the fire, right? We believe it's Jesus. Most likely is standing in the fire, right? It's God with them in the midst of the fire, right? What does that tell us about our lives when we go through hard things and when we don't do what the world wants us to do, but we do what God wants us to do, and we're thrown into hard situations? What does that tell us? What will God do? Where will God be?
With us.
That's right.
With us.
That's right. He'll be with us in the middle of it, right? So we learn that when we follow Christ and when we love Him with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength, and we love our neighbor as ourselves, when we trust Him, that when those kinds of things happen, although it might be tough, there's no promises that we're not going to be thrown into the fiery furnace. But there is a promise that in the middle of the fiery furnace,
God will be with us.
That's right. God will be with us. And that's really the thought for today, is that no matter what we're going through, even if it seems like it's easier to cheat or it's easier to bow down to the things around us, in the long run, it's not good for us. In the long run, it's very damaging to us. But when we choose to take a stand, no matter if the fire comes or not, in the middle of all that, we know we can trust that God is with us. He's with us in the fire. He won't leave us. And the cool thing is, because what's the rest of the story? Did they get burned up in the fire?
Nope.
They were saved.
By
right?
God.
And not only were they saved, but Nebuchadnezzar was amazed. Right? He was amazed that he changed. He was amazed that God could do that. He recognized the power of God because those people allowed the fire to test them, and they, in the middle of the fire, had Jesus stand with them, and everyone around them saw it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way our lives are. If we, in the middle of those times, if we stand firm and we love the Lord our God with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love our neighbor as ourselves in these crazy times we live in, people around us are going to see God. They're going to see Christ in us, in the midst of in the fire that we stand. And so that's just an encouragement to you. Thanks for joining Enam and I on this podcast. And we just encourage you. It's okay to stand in the fire because we know that there's one who stands in the fire with us. So God bless you. Thanks for joining us today. We will see you tomorrow for our last Bible study, our last Bible story of the week. See you then.